Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of From No Crypto to No Crypto. I'm your host, the Crypto Coach, Blockchain Wayne, and today this is a special episode. This is the week of the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. It is a very large, it's one of the biggest Bitcoin conferences in the world. It brings people from all over the world. This week is also unique because it has a different lineup. Not only do you have Michael Saylor talking, you also have, with the upcoming elections in the United States, you have Robert F. Kennedy speaking, you have Donald Trump speaking, and there are rumors that Elon Musk may attend as well. Who knows? But it's a great lineup. A lot of people are looking to attend and find out what's going to be said there. But I want to touch on a special topic this week that's been kind of near and dear to me over the many years. Obviously, I wear a Bitcoin hat. I think Bitcoin is very important when it comes to adoption of digital currencies, adoption of cryptocurrencies. But there's also different schools of thought out there. And I want to touch on one known as a Bitcoin maximalist. A Bitcoin maximalist is someone that believes it's Bitcoin or nothing. Everything else outside of Bitcoin is garbage. It's only Bitcoin. You should only focus on Bitcoin. That's the only way to fix the money. And while there are some things that the Bitcoin maximalists believe that I think they get right, there are also quite a few things I think they get wrong. So I'm going to go through a list of some of the beliefs that are out there that's been put out by many people in that Bitcoin maximalist community and really highlight the pros and cons of what they say. Now, as I said, I wear the Bitcoin hat. I wear this whenever I travel. I wear Bitcoin shirts. I think it's important. Everybody needs to understand Bitcoin because I think most people don't understand money. And when you understand money and what makes hard money and what is soft money or easy money or weak money, you really understand how important Bitcoin is. So while I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, I am a Bitcoin minimalist. There are a lot of cryptocurrencies, a lot of what we call digital currencies out there that are garbage. And we're going to talk about those, but I don't think it's an all or nothing. I think it's very hard to have that stance if you're open for decentralization and you think that the market should be able to choose, it should be free markets, then saying that it's Bitcoin or nothing is kind of I find a very closed-minded statement. And I'm going to talk about why. Now, first and foremost, you hear most people say Bitcoin is not crypto and crypto is not Bitcoin. That's not really true. I mean, cryptocurrency is a general term for any currency out there designed using cryptography. Bitcoin being one of them. Bitcoin was the first crypto. Now, Bitcoin has established itself as a name, as a household name. So yeah, I mean, when I talk about crypto, I don't refer to Bitcoin. If I want to talk about Bitcoin, I say Bitcoin. I don't lump it into crypto unless I'm talking about the basket of digital assets in a whole. I do think there needs to be some more specifications because there are tokens. Any kind of token that be created on a chain within minutes. Most of those are garbage, a lot of rug pulls, a lot of scams. Those should have a separate indication whether those are crypto, and we specify others as well, because there's different things. There's actually coins and tokens. A coin is an asset like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, anything that has a native chain and the asset is native to that chain. FIO itself is a layer one blockchain. So FIO actually is listed as a coin, whereas a token is a token that's created on a chain that is not native to that chain. It's just built using a smart contract on that chain, like we see with many things. A lot of these meme coins that are coming out, many of them are garbage. A lot of those are considered tokens. Anybody can spin up one. So it's more important than what's being built. I'll touch on that more in a second. So let's look into Bitcoin maximalists, what they get wrong and what they get right. So one thing, Bitcoin is the only true form of digital currency. All other cryptocurrencies are either scams, clones, or inferior versions of Bitcoin. I think there's some truth to all of that, but lumping all of them together is not correct. Now, everything is inferior to Bitcoin in terms of money, in terms of decentralization, money, and basically security of the network. But I think decentralization is a sliding scale because I will trust a proof of stake chain. A proof of stake chain is a chain that maybe that uses proof of stake as their consensus method. There are some vulnerabilities with proof of stake where proof of work, which Bitcoin runs on, is more secure, more sound, more safe if the network is fully decentralized. But there was a point early on where Bitcoin was not as decentralized, was more vulnerable to attacks, but the value of the network at that time wasn't anywhere worth people attacking it. And by the time the value of the network grew, it was more decentralized, more open. So that's why I say decentralization is a sliding scale. And not everything, like Bitcoin obviously fixes the money, but we need more things. We need to fix more things than just money. And having a network that has a token structure is important because what are your incentives to secure that network? So if I have a network that's being secured by, say, 10,000 nodes across the world, I trust that more than a centralized server for my bank or any other central institution. So that's why I say trust comes on a sliding scale. Decentralization comes on a sliding scale. So it's important to remember that when you think about other digital assets. Bitcoin is the best form of hard money. And I'll talk about that in a second why when we talk about the supply. But it's important to understand that. The next thing is the success of Bitcoin is inevitable. It will eventually replace fiat currencies and traditional financial systems worldwide. Now, personally, I think that's actually something that they get right. I think Bitcoin will become a global store of value. And for many of us, we think about money in terms of what can I go to the store and spend. The problem is hard money is money that you want to save, you want to keep for the long term because it preserves value, not necessarily just that I can spend it in every store. That's why dollars are kind of a weak money. If you hold on to dollars right now, inflation is killing you year over year. You're losing purchasing power. So the incentive, if you have dollars, is to either spend it on something, spend it in the market, or use it to buy assets that will appreciate or at least hold value over time. So hard money, not all hard money means that money has to be spent in a store. I think people need to understand that. Just because it's not accepted everywhere as, oh, I can't walk into a local grocery store or gas station and pay with Bitcoin, that doesn't mean that it's bad money. It's actually hard money because I'd rather spend those dollars and hold on to my hard money. So that's where I feel they get right when it looks at this system. Maximalists also advocate for focusing exclusively on the development and promotion of Bitcoin rather than investing time and resources in alternative cryptocurrencies and blockchains. The problem with that being the Bitcoin blockchain is limited. Its simplicity is beautiful. In a way, it's designed for specific things. And there is a limit to what Bitcoin can do. Yes, it can fix the money. And if you fix the money, you can fix the world. But we also need to fix more than just money. Centralized information sources, centralized databases, centralized banking structures. All of those things are threats, and not everything is just around money. Centralized news sources, centralized anything is bad. So there are other blockchains out there that may use different consensus methods than Bitcoin that maybe aren't as secure as Bitcoin, but they solve a real need in the world. And the only incentive to really run those networks is to have a tokenized system that incentivizes those for securing the network. Now, proof of stake has many different vulnerabilities to where if someone has enough money, they can buy a majority control of the stake of a chain. But there are blockchains out there in proof of stake that are finding different ways to alter that consensus method to where it can't be controlled just by a large token holder. So that does need to be solved, but focusing just on Bitcoin is not important. There's also people that felt other things need to be happening to Bitcoin, like larger block sizes. Now, larger block sizes would also decrease the capability for most people to run nodes. So that debate of do we need larger block sizes so you can fit more information per block of Bitcoin? And, a lot of those were shut down, or there was a fork where we ended up with other currencies like Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV and others that are inferior to Bitcoin. And most of those are garbage because those networks can easily be taken over. But if you have enough of the community around a fork of Bitcoin that allows you to do something different, we should look at that as, hey, let's keep, if Bitcoin Core developers and Bitcoin Core node runners and miners want to keep Bitcoin as it is or limit the expansion of it, then allow others to build other use cases, other forms of blockchain. So it's really important to see that we have other options in the space, not saying that one is better than the other, but one can do some things better than others. That's like saying what is a better what animal to win in a fight, a shark or a tiger? Now that's hard to say because it really depends on the environment, that what it's designed in, what it is made for. And so that's why it's important to realize that it's not Bitcoin or nothing. So they also believe that Bitcoin's limited supply of 21 million Bitcoin ensures its value and stability as opposed to other cryptocurrencies with theoretically infinite supplies. Now that is true. The infinite supply of other cryptocurrencies. Not every cryptocurrency has an infinite supply. Some of them have an inflationary method. Some of them have a fixed supply, just like Bitcoin, and others have a method to where it's just infinite. And those, the more you put out on the market, the more that could impact the value, make the value go down. Just as we print more dollars, the value purchasing power of the dollar goes down. So you could see that same thing in cryptocurrency. Having a fixed supply of Bitcoin at 21 million is important because that creates hard money. It's the hardest money ever. The only hard money we had before that really was gold, and gold actually is still being mined. There's still new gold deposits being found, but it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of cost, it takes a lot of effort, and the amount going onto the market is a very low amount in relation to the total supply out there. So it's a very low inflationary model. So that's why Bitcoin fixed supply is a very good thing. It's very important to fix the money supply. And as more and more you see more and more assets across the world that are going to be backed or denominated in their value in relation to Bitcoin, then we're going to see more stability in the market, and you won't see this massive inflation. As long as we're using fiat currencies such as dollars and yen and other currencies that governments create, we're going to continue to see inflation because those governments can't seem to stop printing and flooding the market with money, with dollars. So Bitcoin is often seen as a store of value or digital gold, providing a hedge against inflation and economic stability. Now that they actually get right, I believe, in the long term. Now, day to day, someone will say, well, Bitcoin was worth more 3 months ago than it is now. In the short term, it's not a hedge against inflation, but over the long term, and that's really what we look at. I look at Bitcoin from a holding standpoint of a long-term savings plan. It is definitely been, has been, and will continue to be a hedge against inflation. So Bitcoin maximalists actually get that right. So maximalists are skeptical of centralization in cryptocurrency projects and believe that decentralization is crucial for success and security of Bitcoin. Now that I say they actually get right, because many cryptocurrencies today, when they are launched, whether it's a coin or a token, are very centralized, and you're relying on a founder, a project team, or people, and that is true. Now, there should be a plan, a pathway, a roadmap to move to more decentralization. As I mentioned, it's a sliding scale, because the more a project is centralized, the lack of trust most people will have in it, and the more it can be compromised or corrupted. As it becomes more decentralized, it can be better. So that is a legitimate concern. But as I mentioned before, we're not just talking about money here. We've got many other centralized services and projects and products, centralized entities that need to be replaced, that we need to fix, not just the money. So they are right when it comes to that. You want to look at cryptocurrency investing where you're talking about anything that's not Bitcoin. You're pretty much betting on similar concept to how you look at stocks. You're betting on that company, that team, the community behind it. You really have to bet on those things until it reaches a point of adoption, or as it scales in more and more into decentralization, because the success or failure of that project could depend on that founder, on that community. Even Ethereum, which many people say is very decentralized, it still has a close circle of influence that is influencing what's happening to it. So I don't believe that Ethereum is as decentralized as most people think. And also having a founder. We'll talk about Satoshi Nakamoto in another bullet point. While it's important that Satoshi, he, she, they, or whoever it was, stepped away. All right, so Bitcoin maximalists also believe they criticize Bitcoin forks, new cryptocurrencies created from existing ones, as unnecessary and potentially damaging to the original Bitcoin network. There's some truth and there's some untruth to that, but it really depends on how you look at it. Because if the fork of Bitcoin is to create another form of money that is going to be pass itself off as better money than Bitcoin, then yes, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of effort. What else are you trying to solve other than just money? That's what you need to look at if you're going to be a fork of Bitcoin. Now, outside of that, if they have a premise to say, okay, we like the core of Bitcoin code, the model, but we want to build it to do something else in the sector, something outside of just fixing the money, then there could be some legitimacy to that, and there could be some good effort that needs to be put into that. So that's something that you want to look at when it comes to forks of Bitcoin. All right, next, let's talk about maximalists' view of other cryptocurrency communities with suspicion, accusing them of being altcoins or shitcoins. And I've seen this. I actually had a friend that was recently on a Bitcoin-centered podcast, or call it like a group chat, like a Twitter space. And because she had a .eth in her username, others were accusing her of just promoting shitcoins, when she's been an advocate in creating education in this space for a very long time, working on bridging adoption, got onboarded with Bitcoin first, loves Bitcoin, but understands that there's other cryptocurrencies that can do different things that Bitcoin can't and not designed to do. So I think for me, the message here again is it's not an all or nothing. It's Bitcoin or nothing. It's Bitcoin and a select, I'd say probably less than 1% of everything that's out there in the cryptocurrency space, probably less now that we have so many meme coins that have come out over the last few months between Solana and Base. And yes, a lot of those, most of them, 99.999% of those are garbage. But in the whole holistically, when you look at cryptocurrency, there's some real projects doing real things. Think about what Chainlink is doing. Think about what ICP is doing. ICP is helping to secure Bitcoin. I mean, there are so many other projects out there that are building good things, but it is a small percent. I'd say 99.9% of the projects that are out there are garbage, but that 1% represents I call it maybe 50, possibly maybe up to 100 that are actually building real stuff, and probably only a small percentage of those are worth investing in, as some of them are just going to provide great infrastructure. They're going to work in the background, not really lead to a lot of hype or increase in price. But so you're probably looking at Bitcoin and maybe a handful of others if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint. But at the end of the day, you've got to make that decision. You've got to decide if that's something you're interested in, if that's something that you want to invest in, because you and you alone are responsible for your investment decisions. But every portfolio, I will say this, must include Bitcoin. If even for me, it's mostly Bitcoin. So, like I said, I didn't come into this podcast with a all or nothing or Bitcoin maximalists are completely wrong. They get some things right. They get some good things right, and they get some things wrong. So it's important to look at that. And the last note that I have when it comes to Bitcoin maximalists is the community believes that Bitcoin's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, is a genius, that their original vision for the currency should be respected and followed. Now, even Satoshi has mentioned that basically that vision could evolve over time. And I think it has, because I don't think Satoshi envisioned Bitcoin to what it is today. But whoever Satoshi is, he, she, or they, one of the best things that Satoshi did as a visionary was leave the project, disappear, moved on, left a message many years ago. I've moved on to other things. Bitcoin is now in the hands of the community. And I think a lot of times, even if that founder is not actively developing on that blockchain or that cryptocurrency, they could still influence that community's decision. So you look at projects that, like Vitalik is still the face of Ethereum. You look at, Cardano still has a face with Hoskinson, right? There are other projects that still have a face to that. And I think even if they don't actually have any actual control over the network, they could influence those decisions. So it's important when you reach a certain point of decentralization in the network and the community, and all the builders, the devs can function on their own and have it really be community driven. It's important for that founder to step away. And so that's an important thing as you move along in the scale of decentralization. Will anything ever hit the same decentralization level as Bitcoin? I don't know, but I don't think so. But there will be some hybrid networks that may utilize some of Bitcoin's technology and maybe some of the best what's out there in proof of stake. And we've seen a few that are trying to do that, or maybe some layer twos that actually roll up to Bitcoin's layer one, where maybe that layer two may be a proof of stake that allows you to have fast transactions, a little bit more, increase in network capability, network bandwidth, but also roll up and have those hashes of that data stored on Bitcoin. So that's what you may see as well. Personally, I feel the future is going to be multi-chain, multi-blockchain. And so because of that, it's important to have solutions and protocols that don't just focus on Bitcoin, but focus on it as a whole, because as I mentioned, there are other things that are going to be prevalent when it comes to what needs to be fixed in terms of our data. I mean, heck, we need blockchain to really secure AI and make sure AI is not controlled by centralized sources, because with AI, it's about the data that's put in to feed those AI models that determines what you get out. And we saw what happened when Google recently, they were pulling results from Reddit and other places that weren't verified, and you were getting all these crazy results. So that's another thing that needs to be fixed with decentralization, with this sliding scale. Whether it's controlled by one, that's heavily centralized. Controlled by a few, it's still very centralized. Controlled by thousands, now you're sliding away from one or two people can easily corrupt that. And as you scale that model of decentralization, then you have better networks, better inputs, better outputs, and you can have move away from that centralization and chance of corruption, because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, which is why those that are in control of the money supply now, they absolutely have corrupted it, and that's why we see inflation rampant all over the world. You could say the same, insert X project, company, solution, what industry, whatever it is. If it's heavily centralized, then that's a problem. So wanted to do this. I know I kind of may have gone a little bit on and off topic, but it's important to get that out there. As I head to the Bitcoin conference this week, I will tell you, as I said, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is the key. It's core. Most people need to learn from Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has a limited use case, a limited functionality, and the code itself in Bitcoin is simple but beautiful, and it solves a lot of problems. But there's other problems out there that we need to have solved. So I challenge you when you're looking at cryptocurrencies, yes, be wary, because most of the cryptocurrencies out there are garbage. All these, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of meme tokens being created every week, and most of them are scams. In fact, all of them are scams unless they have a plan to build something of use case. And unless it's going to build something that's going to impact the world, if they're building a meme coin just to launch a game, yeah, limited capability, mostly hype, that doesn't really solve a real world problem. So you have to look at what's being built out there, what projects are building solutions. I mentioned Chainlink earlier. I mentioned FIO. What we're doing is we're simplifying that sending and receiving process. FIO even makes using Bitcoin easier. If you're sending and receiving or transacting in Bitcoin, whether it's on the Bitcoin network or the Lightning network, the FIO protocol is designed to make that simple and easy. Stop the user errors, stop the mistakes, and stop the intimidation where people are scared to even use it because it looks complicated. So there's a lot of great projects out there. Make sure you're doing your own research. It's very important to understand that and realize when you're investing in most of these cryptocurrencies, it's a bet, it's a gamble. It's very much so dependent on that team, on the founder, on the project, on the community. Now, Bitcoin itself is not dependent on any founder, not dependent on just any one person or any small entity. And that's why it's achieved the success that it has. And so that is something to keep in mind. Bitcoin will always be king, but there's some other things out there we have to fix in the world as well. So hopefully this has been helpful. Love to hear your comments, whether it's on any social media posts around this, or you're watching this, the recording of this, or listening to this on a podcast app. I know there's a lot I left out. There's probably some stuff you may disagree with me on. Open for that conversation, open for that dialogue. So feel free to send some comments, send some information. That's it, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.